Hello, my name's Leila. I'm 22. I studied English at the University of Bristol, which I graduated from last year in 2018. I now work in media. I work in radio, but that's probably media. You can tell I'm very well versed in my sector. So, my current situation, question one. I work as a freelance assistant producer / content assistant, which are just word swapped around really. So they're slightly different jobs at the BBC, in BBC Radio, which for me is across 3 networks: BBC Radio 1, BBC Radio 1 Extra, and the BBC Asian Network, and occasionally Radio 2 if I'm feeling frisky / they'll have me. Anyway, yeah, across those 3 stations I assistant produce. We'll just use that term from here on out, because they're very similar things. Which, for people who aren't in radio, I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know what radio production really entailed, but I guess a lot of people don't. This video isn't about that though. This is more about my career progression, so I'm not going to get into it. But if you do have any questions about what I actually do, which I ask myself every day, do feel free to get in touch if you're interested in the radio. Yeah, maybe I'll explain kind of how I got to where I am now. I obviously graduated from Bristol last year and just did an English degree, which we all know doesn't really, is a piece of paper. That's really cheerful. But I did a lot of extracurricular kind of stuff whilst I was there at uni. So I did mainly student journalism, like paper journalism. So I edited one of the sections of my student newspaper, and I did have a radio show with my friend, but it was nothing near kind of professional, and I think my goal was never to be in radio, and it was kind of a strange route that I found in, which I'll explain more. I did stuff whilst I was at uni, and then I applied just as I was leaving, which coincided deliciously with the deadline on my dissertation and stuff like that, which was just a great time for me. Applied for basically every scheme under the sun that the BBC did, ITV did. I did a couple of like Guardian schemes. I probably applied to like 6 or 7 different things, mainly having my heart set on journalism. So there's a really great journalism trainee scheme that the BBC do, which is a year long in London, that I was like, was my golden, like, that's what I wanted out of my life, which I spent ages and ages and ages doing an application for, and got a rejection from it pretty quickly, almost immediately. There were a lot of other schemes that I got rejected from. Some stuff at Radio Wales, I got rejected from stuff at Papers, I got rejected from stuff in Bristol. I applied for all of these schemes Easter time of my final year of uni last year, and really had my heart set on the like journalism, the paper one, where you kind of got to go into the newsroom and do all of that really important stuff. But as I was doing it, there was this one scheme. So the BBC has like a big careers website thing where you can search schemes and work experience and stuff, and for the most part their internship schemes are paid, which is great because that's not really usual in a lot of media stuff. But I was applying for that journalism one, and I saw one for Radio 1, and I was like, well, I do like Radio 1 as a listener. I am interested in pop culture, and I like to think of myself as funny and relevant, but I like to think of myself as. And so I saw it and I was like, I'll just apply to that. It was actually the day before the deadline. Anyway, that's how I got in. I ended up getting an interview for that, interviews for that, which coincided really nicely with my finals. And then I got the job, which was mad. I was pretty confused, and obviously really excited, but got a spot after the interviews, and then started my internship in October time, so it's almost a year now since I've been working there, which was just over 2 months long. It was a paid internship, great. And then at the end of it, there's kind of a chance, a freelance pass, which means that you can do week by week shifts on shows. Some context, I would say that like 60% of people who make radio for the BBC are on a contract to do so. So they're kind of, as you'd say, a normal job. And then the other 40% will be freelancers. And I think wherever you work in media, whether it's paper, TV, radio, news, podcasting, audio, voiceover, whatever, a lot of it is freelance work, because these projects, everything is quite self-contained. So it's so much easier for people to hire, especially young people who are new into the industry and are able to kind of flip from one thing to the other without having too much stuff to tie them down. It's just easier for them to hire them for block amounts of time. The money for freelancing is good if not better than contract. It's just you have to chase your work. Got a freelance pass in January, which specifically at the BBC are quite hard to come by, because it's like there's kind of a certain amount of hours that you have to do in there before you can get that pass to say that you can then go off and do anything, which is probably similar in a lot of different things, but it's not as straightforward, I think, which is important to remember if you don't know that much about media. It's not as straightforward as you go in, you do the interview, you get the job, you do the job, your contract. It's not a 5-day-a-week thing. Anyway, I'm babbling. What are the highs and lows of the experience that I've had? Highs have been doing the job. I absolutely love my job, and when I stop to think about it enough, it drives me a little bit insane, because it seems completely ridiculous that I could be doing something that I would do for free, basically, and I used to do for free. Again, as a 22-year-old who just left uni, probably shouldn't be saying there's no feeling like it, but I am. There's no feeling like getting up and like being buzzing to go in and do something that you're actually really interested in. It just doesn't feel like work, which is why I want to get more people into it, you see. Anyway, the lows are pretty much integrated into that. The lows are not feeling like I'm cut out for it, because I'm not from London and I don't have media experience, not thinking I'm good enough, rejection from other stuff. Obviously I got a lot of rejections, all kind of in that same pool in that final year, because I just sprayed everything. I just applied for everything, and a lot of them didn't come back. It's odd, because I think the more people that I speak to and the more people that I lean on for advice, the more people say I'm going to go through a lot of those before you get anything, just as a rite of passage. So yeah, that's more internal job stuff though. I would say lows, definitely being so daunted by jobs that I thought weren't for people like me, or that I thought I just didn't have a shot at. There's always that thing of, especially with jobs like this, where it's like there's always somebody who's one step ahead of you. There's always someone who's done that extra bit more. There's always someone who's done, so why even? And that was a lot of, I think, what stopped me from saying what I really wanted to say in a lot of the applications. Actually, I applied for a lot of stuff, but I was so hell-bent on like getting the actual perfect application and saying exactly what it was that they wanted to hear. As with the one that I actually ended up getting, I was like quite fearless about. So I think thinking that you're applying for something that is out of your league, so to speak, that's the shit part. And I don't think, if there's anything that can come out of me talking about what I do now and what I have done, is that that's the first thing that you have to stop doing. And I'm still guilty of doing that now. I literally go into work every day and I'm like, oh, I'm so shit. But no, like, do as I say, not as I do. That's the term. The internship I did led me into my freelance spot now. Freelancing is great because you can work as much or as little as you want. I mean, not as little, because if you work as little as you want, you can't pay your rent. But yeah, most weeks now I work kind of 6 days, sometimes 7, depending on how tired I am and how much I want to go out and get drunk. But advice for stuff to do with experience and stuff that you've done in the past, if you haven't done that much, is just to be really kind of fluid in what you do. Don't think that because you do something you have to continue to do, you have to just do this thing and like have 3 years of experience in this one thing, because that's how you progress in that and whatever. I think just do what it is that you enjoy doing as experience. Hopefully you're chasing something that you actually like, which is why you're on a page like this. create that stuff on your own time anyway, which should be a chore if this is what you're kind of going into. So again, I realise that this is going to be completely not relevant for people who don't want to go into anything creative, but just be doing what you like anyway, and hope that when the time comes, the right people will see it, will go, yes. It's just keep making stuff. It doesn't have to be, especially in media these days, doesn't have to be corporate, doesn't have to be based in a company. Make your own podcast. Be stupid on your Instagram stories. The interview that I did, I took in some memes that I'd made and was like, made these memes. These are really funny, funnier than your memes. Didn't say that at all, but you get the picture. Took in memes that I made, showed them my Instagram stories, and was like, this is the creating stuff of now. This is the way that things are going. So yeah, just do what it is that you like to do and continue to do it. Websites. The main website that I used is the BBC Careers Hub or Gateway, or whatever it is, which is great because you can filter stuff by work experience, by internship, by location. Obviously, don't just think, if you want to be in media, don't just think I have to go to London and do it there, because I'm obviously talking about the BBC, but there's the same thing with ITV, with Channel 4, with every news company under the sun. You can go to BBC Oxford, BBC Lancashire, BBC Wales, BBC in Cardiff. There's a huge studio there for radio, for TV. You can get opportunities in those smaller areas before you actually move into national stuff, which is probably a more beneficial way of doing it, because you're going to have more experience and you're going to get there and absolutely lose your shit, which I assure you I did. I've also got a list of schemes that I was given by somebody at my student paper, that I think gets updated. It's on something called the Journo resource something. I will find the link for it. So yeah, someone at my old student newspaper found it. It's like a collation of schemes, when they open, when they close, for things across the board. That's a good thing just to keep. Would keep that bookmarked, and just every time that a new thing opened, I would just apply for that, apply for that, and apply for that, and apply for that. And that's, as I say when I'm saying, I applied for lots of different schemes, and got rejected from a lot of different schemes. I was basically just working my way down this list whilst I was in the library at uni. The next question is interesting interview experiences. This I don't really have that much content for, because I only got one interview, and it was as weird as radio interviews go. I think with interviews for media or anything creative, it's gonna be pretty out there. So I wouldn't. There's nothing really you can't expect. Like I say, I went in and they asked me a lot of questions, like your usual stuff. But they also asked you stuff like, what would you do with Taylor Swift backstage at Big Weekend for 20 minutes with a microphone and 2 cameras or whatever? So they're not straightforward. So I don't really think the kind of weird interview questions is a thing, because they're all weird. But expect it and be weird back. That's the key, really. The next question is about motivation, being motivated. I think the motivation for me, again, I feel slightly underqualified to talk about it, because I feel like I didn't get my due struggles coming into it. I say this as I'm probably going to go through the next 6 years of struggling to actually climb to anywhere near a producer, but I think the motivation thing for me was just, it's hard, because I think I was quite demotivated by default. I have always had a bit of a, not an imposter syndrome kind of thing, but like I'm a bit of a pessimist. I'm a warrior. So I think I didn't, motivation for me was always a thing. It's very much up and down. And I still do that now. I still go into work sometimes, and for like a week's time, I'm like, I'm not cut out for this. Everyone else here is great, and I'm shit. This was a mistake. You did not need to hire me. And then I'll go in and be like, oh, these knees, I can do whatever to do. Let's do. Yeah, it goes up and down, and I think it did as well when I was searching for stuff. Keeping your motivation, I think, is keeping in mind that it can and probably will happen. And me saying that isn't me being like, probably will. No, can and probably will happen. Everyone in this network is highly intelligent, gone to really good universities, got really good degrees, done loads of stuff, dynamic, interested. You're on the page, which means that you're interested in doing something that's not, what everyone else does or what's really easy to just walk into. So is knowing that it will happen at some point. It might not happen the way that you think it will, exhibit A, but it will, and you just have to keep doing it. You have to remember that they need people, they need young people going into these jobs. They need us just as much as we need them. That's quite an important thing to keep in mind. We are really, 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 really valuable to people in jobs that the senior roles to us that we're aspiring to. We're really valuable, but we're really threatening. We know a lot more about how the world works, and in the next 5 years, we're going to know a lot more about how the world works than the person who's interviewing you. So remember that they need you a lot, and your ideas and what you think is gold dust to them, to a 40-year-old who doesn't know how, I don't know, Snapchat works, especially in stuff like media. We know that, I don't know what the stat is, I wish I did, but something like 40% of young people consume news primarily through social media, through Instagram, through Facebook, through Twitter Explore, through Snapchat stories and news and stuff like that, which adults are terrified of. They don't get it. They do not know what's going on. They like to think they do. They have their Instagram where they post funny memes about wine, but they don't get it. And they need people who do. That's just an example, and completely going to be completely different to other careers and sectors and whatever. But the motivation is remembering that you are right for the job. Just because other people have that job, they're not going to have it forever, and somebody can do it better than them, aka you. That was quite bleh. Yeah. And another thing, I guess, motivating wise, is for me, which again, so bad, but is thinking of what you don't want to do, and especially when you're doing stuff that might be slightly out there. You're making a podcast, you're producing a radio show, you're writing articles, and people are like, why are you doing that? That's weird, or try hard, or whatever. And I could actually be doing a really cool job that I actually don't hate every morning. So yeah, that's really harsh, but I think something that puts a lot of people off doing stuff that requires a lot of personal input and a lot of genuine interest, because you do come off looking, especially in a sea of other people who just want to move to the city and make a lot of money, you look like a bit of a wet wipe, or people say that you look a bit of a wet wipe, but they're the real wet wipes, because you'll get there and you'll do a cool job, and they'll be like, should have been doing that. Yes, I have spoken for a really long time, so I'm gonna stop. I think I've covered some ground. If you are interested in anything that I've said that has been remotely intelligible, please actually message me, genuinely, because I think one thing that I can say, maybe my number one tip, I think I've had a lot of number one tips, but is build contacts, and not just build them, actually use them. Send people messages. If they don't respond, if they haven't got time for you, they're not going to blacklist you. Anyone who's not got enough time or doesn't want to put in the effort to help someone else who's interested in the thing that they're doing, I don't know. I've never really, in all honesty, in the creative industry that I'm in, I never really come across people like that, because I think you realise how lucky you are to be doing it, and you just think you want to spread the joy of where you are and what you do and stuff. So message me if you're interested in anything that I've said, or working in radio or schemes or whatever. Make contacts, use contacts, and just put yourself out there. Go in and stick to what you think is a good idea. And as you can tell, I've run out of brain cells, so I'm going to stop now. But yeah, message me if you're interested in anything I've said, and come work with me. It's fun. It's cool. Okay. Oh, bye.